hoped I could have gone maybe the rest of my career as a commentator without outing myself as a bisexual, but thanks guys, you managed to find a way to force me to cancel myself within 10 months of me coming out. I appreciate it. Jokes aside, you might be asking what's happening and what I'm covering. Well, to make a long story short, there was a Twitter thread recently uploaded that went over why bisexuality is pointless, and it reeks of not understanding the first thing about not only bisexuality, but LGBT in general. And as somebody who's only really been bi for 9 months, it's unnatural saying someone's stupider than me. Anyways, let's just begin. Endgame. Unless you're polygamous at heart, you usually end up with one person who will be one of the two genders. These long-term relationships are usually formed by your gender preference, which everyone has, thus making you either straight or not straight. Wow, this is incredibly backwards thinking of you. You might as well be saying this while walking straight into a wall there. But to slow you down, I have a really hard time getting this logic behind this. You're trying to say that a bi person will likely end up in a long-term relationship, and that long-term relationship is to be sparked by the gender preference. Since that's the case, they will end up either straight or not straight. This is where my problems begin to arise. You understand that bisexuality literally means you have an attraction to both genders? Yeah, you may have a preference and that could affect who you want to be in a relationship with, but that doesn't mean you aren't bi if you're in a long-term relationship with one gender, unless you specifically one day say that you likely aren't bi because you are undeniably attracted to just one of those genders. Hell, if a bi person is in a long-term relationship with a person, that may not even mean it's based on their preference. It may just mean that they hecking love that person. Take me for an example. I have been dating my boyfriend Ash for 9 months, even though I'm attracted to females over males. Oh well, I guess it's time for me to renounce the straight side in me. Hey, I mean, I guess that means I can say the tilt F word now, if that's worth anything, but if you ask me, it's kind of like my N-word pass. It's pretty much worthless at the end of the day in my hands. F my life, mate. Unstable. Most people believe that it's confusing. And it is. It's going back and forth and questioning yourself all the time when deep inside, you know which one you prefer. Such confusion can be taxing on the mind, and it's best to avoid that level of mindfuckery completely. Wait, how do you know this? Are you deep inside my mind as I script this? That's kinda gross, you know? Actually, how many people do you know that do this? I mean, considering you seem to know that we all seem to struggle with choosing which one we prefer over the other, this feels like a little bit of an add-on to the last tweet, so if you allow me to reiterate, you say that it's confusing because you'll be questioning yourself all the time when it's obvious which one you prefer. Ma'am, I don't get paid enough to have you speak for me. Now, I'm not going to speak for all bi folks out there. There probably are some who do go back and forth and question which gender they do prefer. Or do they? Well, here's a little fun fact, that probably ain't all of them. Most people who are bi don't even care what gender they prefer. It's only a matter of who the person is or if that person is attractive to them or not. And say they prefer one gender over the other anyways. As I said in my last interjection, if they're bi, that doesn't make them any less bi, you dum-dum. Fad. Piggybacking on my last point, this tends to usually be a fad of some sort, to a gateway to either side, which again is why we should inform the youth of those around us about the benefits of choosing. It's more beneficial if they know the truth. So let me get this straight. A lot of times this tends to be a gateway for people and they will end up being one or the other eventually. I mean, this isn't wrong. I know a few people who actually came out as bi and later came out as gay, for an example. But first off, maybe in these situations, these people didn't fully know how to feel about their sexuality, or new to the whole thing. Yeah, it's used as a bouncing point, but that isn't a bad thing or a thing that just makes the whole thing pointless. It's people experimenting with how they feel before they dip their toes in gay juice, you know? I understand that you think it'd be more beneficial for people to choose one or the other, but my question is, why are you treating it like people will obviously lean towards one over the hecking other? Do you realize niggas just be bi sometimes and love both genders? Tomato, tomato. Another issue is the so-called label is that it has many names, which makes it more confusing. For example, pansexuality is essentially the same as bisexuality. Unnecessary labels for the same thing is pointless. You know, in hindsight, this doesn't actually make the sexuality pointless. It just means that the people who identify themselves with it are throwing too many darts at the same spot, but yada yada daze. I can understand not understanding the difference, especially considering a good explanation is really hard to come from if you aren't looking hard enough, but you do know what pansexuality is and why it isn't bisexuality? I mean, you don't really explain it, and I know it's a Twitter comment, so you probably didn't have enough room, but if you allow me to fill in the blanks, bisexuality is where you like both genders, but you do have one over the other. Pansexuality means you're basically gender blind. They can be a little similar, and heck, admittedly, I even confused them a long time ago myself, but I think there's kind of a difference here. Complexity. There are so many rules and stipulations in a community that's supposed to be free. It's unnervingly complicated, and bisexuality just kind of makes it worse? I don't know how to fully sum it up, but it's a mindfuck and not worth that hassle at all. Okay, there's a lack of clarification on what exactly you're talking about this time. The community of bis or LGBT in general. If we're talking about bis, then the only thing is that you like both genders, the end. Now, if we're talking about LGBT in general, since there's no clarification, I just can't argue this. I understand that you think it isn't worth the hassle, but because you don't clarify, people won't understand why you think bisexuality is making the whole LGBT thing more confusing. Nice job breaking it, hero. Attention. Let's be real. It's mostly for attention. Regardless of who they date, they always have to re-announce and reassure everyone of what they are, just in case they forgot when they told them 2 weeks ago. It's almost as if they don't believe it themselves. Wait, how do you know this? Are you spying on me? I'll have you know that I need to make sure my fellow comrades know that I'll poke them all in the belly before they know it, and they need to prepare themselves for the worst. All jokes aside, for a serious thread about how bisexuality is pointless, this is so anecdotal and generalistic. Like, I don't announce that I'm bi every week. My friend Tippy does it. That girl from 7th grade who told me what bisexuality was didn't. She just happened to be talking about a girl she liked. This is honestly the deal breaker for the thread, you know. No one cares. Literally, no one cares. It's just some nice cultural collateral that people flash to distinguish some self-righteous sense of over-exaggerated exclusivism. You know, usually when I hit the ending to a thread or a video, I can't help but give up because I'm way too exhausted to want to bother to try and argue that. And I feel that way here, but it'd be a crime for me not to say anything right now, so is it really that hard for you to buy the fact that some people really just like guys and gals? I don't understand that mindset of yours because you boil it down to some nice thing that people do to look cooler when you obviously don't understand bisexuality. I'd insult you, but I think it's better not to insult someone who can't think straight in the first place, no offense. Final thoughts? Shut up, boomer.